Don't be too proud of this podcast you've constructed. The ability to rank content is insignificant next to the power of an exceptional hot take.
It is Hot Takes time, and I've got a hot take today.
Let's hear it.
So we find time and time again that the Republic, for which it stands, seems to be this pure thing for everyone on the inside. But literally, you've got Count Dooku, and by what they're going to do to get him, the transaction at terms, obviously, Republic credits are worthless out there in the Outer Rim. So they're trading spices. So and obviously an enormous, I'm sure the equivalent of millions of dollars here. So in order to do that, obviously, now I'm not here to say they made the right or wrong decision, but their hands totally got pretty messy in an attempt to bring Dooku in because they're like, whatever it takes. But one could also see on the outside, like, I understand why the Republic might take that approach, but if you're a Jedi, it's just another thing where I'm like, how many people are going to suffer because of the spice that's being distributed here? And it's not thought about in this episode, but the Republic's like, yeah, whatever.
Just give it to him.
Whatever. And like the Jedi are like, yeah, and we'll facilitate that transaction. We're good.
First of all, where's the Republic just like drumming up millions of dollars of spice? They're like, oh, let me go hit our spice dealer that we have on speed dial.
Yeah. Now, I do want to say there may be a point someone could add that maybe spice at the time wasn't what we know it as today, where it's this illegal.
Maybe it's
substance.
just like saffron is a literal spice, but it's extremely rare and extremely valuable.
Yeah, and that could totally be it.
It's saffron.
Yeah, it's saffron. It's 100% saffron. See, when I first watched this, I didn't even know anything about it, so I would assumed it's something like that. Something that has like, gold or silver, that kind of value. And so that could be the case here. But you know what? The Jedi and Republic have shown their hands are so messy anyway, and they'll do whatever it takes, that I'm going to say, no, someone in there knew that these were drugs used for illicit purposes. And yeah, the Jedi turned a blind eye to it. So proof of corruption.
Yeah, I think it's pretty damning. I would like to know more about drugs in Star Wars. I feel like I've brought that up before because we've talked about the death sticks. And we've talked about spice, especially in The Mandalorian and in Book of Boba Fett. We also know that Poe was like a retired spice dealer. Like, does spice need to be refined before it has like a certain effect, like a drug? And I don't know. I think there's just like a lot of lore that creates sort of this realistic world and makes sense because you have to have these corrupt like mafias working with something, but it's also very like we gloss over it so much. So it's just spice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it highlights how governments in general have to do whatever they can to win a war. And it's actually pretty much never ethical. It's not always an ethical way to I don't think there is an ethical way to win a war. So
yeah, it's more for me the Jedi than
the Jedi doing that is really icky.
Helping broker that deal.
Like maybe if it was a senator, I'd be like, yeah. Like, oh, you're like all of them.
I mean, Yoda was like in the room. Like they know what's going down. They're not like, whoa. What about the ramifications of all the people? Like at what cost with this war? Or what's it going to take for us to, so, if they were, as we already know, they were blinded by their own ego. Is what it seems. And so whatever it took, that's what they were going to do to get the war done.
And ultimately, like the Jedi become very muddled in what their purpose is supposed to be in this war. And I think that's getting showcased in this like situation. I also want to bring up how when Obi-Wan and Anakin are searching, Obi-Wan first boards the ship to find Anakin. He's just searching room by room. And he's not even using the Force to be like, oh, I know where Anakin is. I feel like they just really don't use the Force in the ways that they should sometimes.
Yeah, we talked about that too. That's another point. Yeah, that's like, why not? You're a Jedi Master.
Yeah, shouldn't you be like non-violence all the way and like
Mm.
only pull out the lightsaber when you need it? But
Yeah. All right, so with my take, what do you want?
Oh.
Vote up, vote down. It's been a minute since we've done this, so
is it a I don't know how to what are you saying is the hot take?
I'm just saying the Jedi are more corrupt than we've thought. They're going out and they're saying they are definitely okay with all of these drugs being facilitated. They're going to turn a blind eye to it so they can end the war.
I think it's a hot take because nobody else has brought it up. And I agree with it. The Jedi are complicit in the drug war and can't be trusted.
That is a pullable tweet right there. They're complicit
There
in the
you
drug
go.
war and can't be
Hot.
trusted. That's a hot take right there.
Roger.
Roger, indeed. Wow. All right. Well, with that, I think before we close up this show, should we talk about some interesting Star Wars news?
Yeah.
So, Andor, as we know, is coming out with a season 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hearing more and more just mutterings that there's going to be some crossover action.
Wait, with what?
Well, they're not really saying. I mean, a lot of folks believe it's going to be Darth Vader, but they said they're going to be crossing over with other properties and, can't be Mandalorian. So it's got to be probably something from the Obi-Wan series. Andor.
I did
Darth
see
Vader.
that Tamara Morrison had approached Disney and was like, you better give Boba Fett another season, I swear.
That
Something
really
like
happened?
Yeah. I mean, not in those words, but yeah, I think so.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty wild. I'm
not looking for Andor to try to expand in that way. Like, it has a very specific focus. It only has 2 seasons. What else?
I do think it does make sense to bring in, I don't know about the Inquisitors, but a Darth Vader figure, absolutely. I mean, it just makes sense. I mean, obviously, absolutely the Tarkins of the world and those kinds of folks. Like, as
Reva?
I don't know about her either. Again, we're talking about unless there's a Jedi presence there. But you can absolutely see Darth Vader, Tarkin, the Emperor, those guys. Like, you'd love to see them because where we didn't see them in the first season, but these guys weren't a big enough deal for them yet. I mean, remember, at first, that's what I love about this. It kind of feels like a video game, and that the opposition, the adversary in the beginning, the antagonist, is Cyril. And to go from that to what will be the Emperor, now obviously, because the attack on, that Rebel Alliance, that's the ultimate last stand above Endor. And so, it's going to happen sooner or later. So why not introduce it in some capacity in this show? So lots of great writers coming on, lots of great directors.
And hopefully they can be paid.
Yeah, hopefully a little bit,
Hopefully just give him some money.
Hopefully just a little bit of money.
In other Star Wars news, maybe you should be familiar with, like, From a Certain Point of View is those like series of anthology short stories. The Return of the Jedi one is coming out soon, and it features a short story from the beloved Dexter Jetster.
Oh.
Which is a shout out to Christian.
Yeah, I was about to say.
His favorite character. And I know that Christian does have at least one of the Certain Points of View copies. So
be on the lookout.
Yeah, he's going to have to definitely get this one so he
come
can
on as a guest.
Read the short story.
Tell us what it's all about, because we're not going to read
it. There's a little snippet of the story. It's called The Veteran by Adam Lance Garcia. And this was posted on Star Wars Books on their Twitter. Dexter Jetster thought of the boy he had met on Lenara and all that the boy would never see. He thought of the warrior the boy had become and the war that had been lost, the war Dexter Jester had helped start. Dun dun dun.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
Maybe I will read it. Interesting stuff. Well, do we have anything else to say about Star Wars on this week's episode of Duel of the Ranks? Because I know we can talk about a whole lot of other stuff.
We could.
I don't think
I
so.
think
on
I
Star
said
Wars.
everything I needed to say.
You said everything. All right. Well, I want to say I fully back Tamara Morrison. If he really did go back to Disney and say we need a second season, I'm fully there with him. Hopefully it happens. So
Yeah.
that's all I got.
He threatened to go full Boba Fett on them if they didn't. So
What version of Boba Fett? The one that just like falls over and
No.
gets drunk at a party? Or like
yeah, the like slave one shooting down the churchgoers. Yeah,
the innocent churchgoers.
Yeah, the bike gang.
Oh man. Well, all right. Well, that's this week's episode of Duel of the Ranks. Be sure to listen in. We've got a very, very, very special episode coming up. We're nearing 100 episodes.
100.
And we've had a lot of amazing co-hosts and guests. So be sure to be listening out for that one particularly, because we've got some really fun surprises for y'all. So anyway, that's this week's episode of Duel of the Ranks. Thanks so much for listening in, and we look forward to catching you next week as we break down more of Season 1 of the Clone Wars. See you then.